This show is sponsored by Den 10 Insurance Services, helping businesses get the right insurance for all their insurance needs. Visit den10.io to get a quote. DENTEN.io. And remember, when you buy an insurance policy from Den 10, you're giving back on a global scale. Hello, all my entrepreneurs and business leaders, and welcome to the Michael Esposito Show, where I interview titans of industry in order to inform, educate, and inspire you to be great. My guest today is the founder of Down for Sound Shop. In the span of just 5 years, he went from working out of his parents' attic to 20 million in sales annually in the car audio industry, a milestone unheard of in that sector. Now, he has a thriving YouTube community of fellow bass heads with 500,000 subscribers and coaches others on creating their passion in business. He went from pumping gas and cutting grass. Please welcome the founder of Down for Sound Shop, Johnathan Price.
Hey, y'all, I appreciate the almighty introductory there. But I'm glad to be here, man.
Yeah, it's all about the pauses, man. It's all about the long pauses like we were talking about before.
Absolutely. We had a great pre-podcast interview.
Yeah, it was fun, and it's cool. You know, when I first started the show, I still have the intake form, and I need the intake form for certain types of guests. And it's really great when I get a guest like you on where we didn't have an intake form. We didn't even have a bio until a couple minutes ago. And you're able to jump on and share your whole story within a few minutes. And so I'm like, all right, good. I don't even need an intake form with you, Johnathan. We're going to have some fun, man.
Oh, absolutely. Let's get it going.
You know, in your intro there, it talks about the YouTube channel and over 500,000 subscribers. And we just pretty much tailed off right before starting the show on going through your social media, seeing all the different posts that you make. And then I commented on the number of subscribers you have and followers you have on Facebook because I was shocked. I was like, you know, you have 500,000 subscribers on YouTube, but then on your Facebook page, your personal page, that is, you only have 1,000 followers. And I was like, wait a second, what's going on here? And I really liked the clarity and what you shared about the transparency is what I'm trying to say here about your strategy on social media. And I would love for you to dig into that a little bit. And we're gonna jump off with that, everyone, because I thought this was really important, and I think it's like vital to what's going on in social media today, and kind of like debunking the myths that happen on social media that I've definitely fallen victim to. So I would love for us to just jump into that, and then of course we're going to get to know you on a deeper, more personal level, and find out where that Southern twang comes from.
That's right. I mean, like we were talking about. I mean, if you want to jump into the YouTube following, personal Facebook following, and Down for Sound Facebook following, and kind of separating those and like how they kind of intermingle, I can go into that really quick. Yeah. So my initial thing was my YouTube following. I didn't really have any Facebook or any Instagram or anything like that. I just really started my thing on YouTube. So back in the day, I'm talking like I'm 90 years old, but back in the day, there was Facebook wasn't even a thing yet. MySpace was pretty popular. If people even know what MySpace is that are listening to this, that's kind of showing my age. But
I had a MySpace account.
Yeah. And anyway, before that, we had car audio forums or forums online where people would go and basically share what people share now on Facebook. They would share on these car audio forums or websites where you would go on there, you would start a thread and you'd post your pictures of your car audio build and talk about it, and then people could comment it, but it was just on these different car audio forums. After that, I started, like, I saw a lot of stuff in that I did not like. One of the biggest things was trolling and bashing newcomers to car audio. I didn't think this was okay, and it just wasn't fair to them. They would ask a simple question, and the people that had been on the forum for a long time was like, "You're stupid. You're an idiot. I can't believe you don't know that." I'm like, dude, they're just trying to learn. Like, you had to learn sometime too. Like, what's up with y'all? Anyway, I didn't like it, so I'm like, I need to start a forum of my own where there's no trolling or bashing allowed. If you do it, the first offense, you get banned. Like, like there's no so basically zero tolerance of talking trash to people that just are trying to learn. So I started that, but I had to have a name for it. So we came with the name Down for Sound, strictly for a car audio forum initially. And at this time, I was going to car audio shows with my vehicle. I have a Chevrolet Tahoe. It was an older one, but it was very popular to do car audio builds with. And it has like a lot of subwoofers and speakers in there. And it's really impressive in person at these shows because it like blows people's hair around. It used to blow the windshield out. It's so loud. So it's on this obnoxious level that gets a lot of attention. So when I would go to these shows, people would initially they're like, man, I would love to, you need to start recording this and putting it on YouTube. Where I'm like, what's YouTube? So anyway, I started looking into it. Like, okay, I'll start recording some stuff. And basically people were wanting to see themselves and others' reactions to hearing this crazy car audio system. And I mean, you know, a lot of YouTube channels or social media pages are just reactions to some event happening, whether it's whatever it might be. So
that was huge
anyway,
too in the start of YouTube, the reaction videos.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's still, some people are still crushing it, doing it. They use a very broad stroke of the paintbrush to like, they cover so many things. It's just the reactions to everything pretty much. But anyway, I'm like, okay, I'll start recording. I started putting the videos up and started getting my first 10 followers, 20 followers, 100 followers, and started getting these subscribers. I'm like, okay, I got something going on. And I started feeling more confident about it. I started trying to edit some stuff and make my videos look a little bit better. And then the next thing you know, somebody hacks my YouTube channel. I think I got to like 30,000 subscribers, and somebody hacked my YouTube channel, deleted all my videos, and basically wiped me off the map like I was nothing. I'm like, I'm never doing this again. I've spent so much time and effort making all these videos and trying to grow this thing, for somebody to just be able to hack it and delete my stuff in the matter of an hour. So obviously I was very upset about that. And I made that claim that I was never going to do it again. And until, you know, time always changes. Well, a lot of times changes people's opinions on things, and you cool off and you learn like, okay, maybe I could give this another try. But people kept asking me when because I kept going to shows, but I just wasn't videoing, and people were like, why are you not videoing, man? I want
All right. Looks like we're good to go. Something just happened to the program, but we're good to go. So I'm so sorry. You were in the middle of telling us about the shows.
Okay. So just pick up where I was at.
Yep.
Okay. So, I was going to these shows and recording them. I didn't, after my YouTube channel got hacked and deleted, and I wasn't going to do it anymore. But the more I went to the shows, people were asking me about that. Hey, what happened to your videos? Like, I really enjoyed the reactions and stuff. And so I made the decision, like, okay, I'll start another YouTube channel. I never felt, if I used that one, that the safety of it was going to be legit, because it had been hacked before. So I'm like, something's compromised there. You know, you can change your passwords and all that stuff, but I just didn't feel safe about it. So I'm like, I'm going to start a new YouTube channel. So that's when I started the life of Price. And because I'm like, it's not always going to be about car audio. So I didn't want to make it just strictly car audio, because sometimes it's just about traveling or jumping out of an airplane, going skydiving, going scuba diving, like just sometimes life advice, whatever. So I'm like, I'm just going to name it The Life of Price. So whatever it ends up being that day, it is what it is. So I started recording again, started uploading videos, and it started taking off from there. And the more that my YouTube popularity grew, obviously I reached my 30,000 subscribers that I had gotten deleted at the time before, and blew through that 50,000, 100,000. I was picking up a lot of traction. The more people saw me at shows, they would like, hey, do you have an Instagram account? Do you have a Facebook account or whatever? I'm like, no. And then again, maybe I need to have this so people can follow you, keep up with you and stuff like that. So started those. And so YouTube was my first thing to get started, because we were posting on the car audio forum. So we didn't have a Facebook page or an Instagram page or anything like that. We had forums that we were posting on under our whatever name we came up with on there. So that's why my YouTube channel grew first, and that's why it's the biggest. If you look at, I think our Facebook page, the Down for Sound Shop Facebook page is going to be our second. Yeah, so we have 314,000 followers on our business page, the Down for Sound Shop Facebook page. So that's our second biggest following there for that reason. Because I'm like, okay, I need to start a business page since people were wanting to do or follow me for car audio. Well, it was shortly after me having the aha moment that I was telling you about earlier. But so I can share that with people. The way that I got the business started was the more that I went to these shows and the bigger my system grew, people kept asking me over and over, where do you get your equipment from? And since I was sponsored by a lot of these companies, most of the time when you get a sponsorship from a company, they're doing that in hopes of you sometime in the future giving them a return on their investment. And that investment is maybe you getting free product or discounted product or whatever, but it's your job to pay them back with advertisement and sharing their products with people and getting people to buy it. So I would just tell them initially, like, oh, you just go to Sundown Audio or like whatever brands I was running at the time. You just go there and purchase their product to purchase the product. So they did that. And then after that happening, I don't know, 10 times, somebody asked it at a show, light bulb went off in my head. I'm like, man, I could be selling these people this stuff, but I didn't know anything about business. But the idea, I'm like, man, if I could sell these people this stuff, like that'd be way better than like pumping gas and cutting grass and like all the stuff that I was doing at the current time. Because I've always been a hard worker. And that's something my dad always taught me. Like, basically, you can have anything in this life that you want as long as you're willing to work your ass off for it, and you can accomplish it. So that's all I knew for the longest time was just work all the time, trading all of my hours for dollars. Like, I didn't know that you could do it the other way around, or you can make it where you can make money while you're sleeping, which, by the way, is the best money you can ever make in your life. It's money while you're sleeping. The first time that happened, I was like, man, this is the way. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm like, okay, I need to get this figured out. So I'm growing my YouTube channel, and people are wanting, and they find out about, I get like a website started, and I start selling some different products. And so I'm growing these things, I guess, beside each other. But since YouTube was my first thing, it's the biggest one. I started a Down for Sound Shop Facebook page. So it started growing alongside the YouTube channel. And then people are like, oh, do you have a personal Facebook page? I want to follow you like on there. Or I want to be friends with you. And I'm like, okay, cool. I can do that as well. So my personal Facebook page started after I think my business page, or maybe they were the same, but I never told anybody about a personal Facebook page. So that's why it always had the least amount. But I think your Facebook page or your personal Facebook page friends quantity is capped at 5,000 people, I believe. So I rapidly got to 5,000 people because I was just adding everybody and like gotcha. add. So I mean, a lot of them were people that I'd seen online or maybe at the shows or whatever, but I didn't really know them. So I was just adding everybody. I got to 5,000 people like, oh, I'm cool. I have 5,000 people on here. Like, I'm famous on the internet, whatever. So, but over time, like we were talking about, what happened was it started turning into people weren't engaging with my post. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, I have 5,000 people. I make what I feel is a quality post that could be helping people, and I get like 2 likes, no comments. What's going on? So I decided to make a post about, hey guys, I'm going to be clearing out like my personal Facebook page. If I don't really know you or I don't ever see you comment or whatever, like I'm gonna be removing you. No hard feelings, or can you just take yourself out? Like if you don't like what I'm posting or whatever. So I made that post, and magically it got like 2,500 likes and like hundreds of comments. I'm like, what just happened? How did I go from making the last 10 posts getting 5 or 10 likes or just minimal amount of engagement, and I say I'm going to clean my friends list out and it blows up like crazy? Like I've never seen this much engagement whatsoever. So this has been something that I've been actively doing over the past couple of years, and it's definitely increased my engagement with my followers and stuff on Facebook. As I've grown my YouTube channel, if you get away from your original thing that grew your channel, it can obviously have negative effects to your channel. So my original thing, like I was saying, was I was videoing people getting into my crazy car audio build. They were going crazy. Their hair's blowing all around. Their shirt's flapping around. The windshield blows out. So it's all this action and reactions to people's like experience in my vehicle. So that's what people started following me for. And my subscribers were just taking off like crazy, and tons of comments, tons of likes, all the like everything everybody wanted. As my business started to grow, after I think I've had my YouTube channel for like 12 years. So I was doing YouTube for many, many years before I even started Down for Sound or selling anything. And as you know, probably as well, when you start trying to sell somebody something, they're like, get that away from me. This guy, he only wants me to follow him so he can sell me something or make money off of me.
Yeah.
So, and because people are getting bombarded with ads all day long now, and we all react to them pretty much the same. Like, get that away from me. Like, like exit out, try to move on from it. Anyway, so I ended up getting my my store was growing a decent amount. My YouTube channel was growing fast, and until I started doing product, it was doing okay when I was doing like product unboxings and releases and stuff like that. But you can only do so many of them before it starts having those negative effects, because people start picking up on like, oh, he's just turned into a salesman. Like he only wants to make money off of us. He's not providing reaction content anymore. So that over the years, and I'm sharing this because I share my wins with people, I share my losses with people, and my lessons that I've learned. And a lot of people don't do that. They let their pride get in the way of them being a real individual. But I want people to learn from my mistakes, and I'm still learning from my mistakes and still learning every day. But one of the things that I've learned is just that, like, if you get away from my original thing is the reaction videos and get more into product videos, it hurts your engagement. So whereas I might have 500,000 subscribers or whatever it is, whenever, I can't remember exactly, and I might get, depending on the videos, I might get 5,000 views, I might get 20,000 views, a very small amount in comparison to what is actually subscribed to me. And that's, every time I say that, it's really humbling to me to say it, because it's not a positive thing for me to say about myself, but it's something that it's a lesson that I've learned, and I know now why it's happened. And although I tried to turn it around and make it better, once you scar somebody, or they're like, oh, the last few videos he was just selling stuff, like, I'm not gonna, it's clickbait or whatever, I'm not gonna go and watch another video. Like, I won't unsubscribe, but I'm not gonna go watch another video either. So try to stay, I guess, true to your origin of why you started the channel. If you want it to keep growing at a great rate, obviously it's okay to try different things and try different avenues. But if you try like some product reviews and you notice your view rates going down and people are not as engaging, like, okay, turn back the other way. Like, you're always, just in like entrepreneurship, you're always course correcting and trying to keep it on track as best as possible. But I also got into where, when I was growing my business in its fastest years or its infancy, I didn't have a lot of staff or help. So I was having to do everything myself. And I'm like, okay, YouTube revenue is making me this much money, but the business has a potential of making me this much money. So which one am I going to devote my time to? Obviously, the business one is way more lucrative for me to do that, and it's going to take care of my family and all this stuff. Even though YouTube is very important because it's a social media platform, and we're able to keep ourselves in front of people across the whole world. But I'm like, I need to generate revenue. I'm broke. I don't have any money. So this one is the smartest way to go for the time being. So here recently, or over the past I think it's been 2 years now, I hired a full-time videographer. I take him with me to all the shows that I go to. He shoots all the content. He edits it. And because even when I did say, okay, I'm going to start doing YouTube again more seriously, I found myself, when I would go to the shows and I have this business to run, I would shoot a bunch of videos and I'm like, oh, I got to edit that.
Right.
Oh man. And I would never edit it. I would never upload it. And I'm like, okay, that's worthless. You're not even doing anything with it. So I decided to bite the bullet and get a videographer to take with me, and he shoots videos for us, and he does all my YouTube videos and edits and everything like that. So I'm invested into that and getting more of the reaction videos. But again, it's gaining those people's confidence back in like, okay, I understand he started a business, he's made it successful, but he's getting back to his roots of like what we really started following him for originally, and a little bit of obviously new products we release and everything like that. But it's kind of learning the balance of sprinkling the product stuff in there a little bit and being a majority of cool content of reaction videos. So it's kind of been my learning lesson of YouTube and getting it started, and how it's more beneficial to stay on track with like what you started with and lessons I've learned along the way that's dinged me. So that's kind of what I've learned so far from that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton there to kind of unpack, and so we'll start with YouTube and the irony in that as soon as you started talking about your YouTube channel getting hacked, all of a sudden the audio started being weird and funky on my end here. And that's why I've been, just for our audience listening and watching, that's why I've been looking to the left here, is because there's a monitor that shows me the audio and shares with me whether we're recording or not. And so like midway through there, we stopped recording, which was scary on my end. And now it's just being very weird and functioning very slowly. But I see the counter going, I see my volume going, and that's why I'm looking there. But I wanted to make sure everybody knows why I'm a little distracted in this interview here. But yeah, when we're thinking about YouTube, I've learned also firsthand experience that by switching midstream from sharing certain types of content and then switching to a different type of content has affected my YouTube. And then it also, I think, is the reason that we see why, like, Joe Rogan has Joe Rogan podcast. Like, your big influencers who have multiple channels. It's why they have multiple channels, because they do so many different things that if they were to just put it all in one YouTube channel, it's going to mess them up, because some people only follow Joe Rogan for his podcast. Some people only follow him for his UFC commentary. It really just kind of varies. So you have to be able to play to the audience that's important to you.
Yes,
I am happy that we did start with the social media thing, because I didn't realize that social media was really the catalyst to your business, Down for Sound. And that's really cool, because a lot of times it's the other way around. It's like I have a business and I want to learn how to promote it. And as you were just talking about, the top of the funnel is certainly social media and marketing and all the rest. And so many people like myself, right? I have a business. I want to learn how to promote it, or I want to promote it. So let me start a YouTube or a social media channel and be able to share. You had the contrary to that, where it grew out of the forums, it grew out of the YouTube following and everything. But there was a passion there, and I'm interested in this passion for you, where it did start with the Tahoe. And so I kind of want to go back to this Tahoe. So you were working, and I'm interested also in these part-time jobs that you had of like landscaping and working, filling fuel, and then of course this passion that you had to put more audio into your Tahoe at the time. So bring us back a little bit and where you lived and what the environment was like in that time.
Okay. That's gonna be kind of lengthy, but I'll do the best that I can.
I could only imagine it being lengthy. So you know what? So let me tee you up real quick. So why don't you share with us where you originally are from?
Okay. Originally from Greenville, Mississippi, down south, just a country boy. Grew up in the fields of Mississippi, small town, 20,000 people, and I guess very humble beginnings. Both of my parents, my mom was a nurse for a while. My dad worked on tugboats as a mechanic. So nothing major, just your standard American family getting started. And but the thing that my dad always taught me getting started was, like I was saying, you can have anything you want in this life if you're willing to work hard for it and stay consistent. So I've always taken that to heart, and that's kind of how I got started on where I came from, and my mindset along the way was always that, just being willing to do the work and not being scared of it.
Yeah. And so growing up in that area where you had not too many things to do in terms of like parties outside of the parties that you threw yourself, my assumption is that you guys were throwing parties and a lot of the music was coming from the car stereos.
Yeah, I always had a passion for car audio. Even when I got my first vehicle, I was doing little modifications to the stereo. I didn't know anything about what I was doing. I was just ordering stuff from Crutchfield and I was trying to install it the best that I could. But I'm surprised I didn't burn the vehicle down. It was such horrible installing. Like now that I know. But anyway, yeah, we were always trying to make it a little bit louder. And when we would have like bonfires in the fields.
That's what I'm imagining.
Yeah,
like straight out of the movies.
All just sitting there, like just cutting up and listening to music and staying out all night. And that the whole thing that most people do, but in the South, is more of bonfires in fields and people out there, like I guess playing in the mud. Standard. I don't know, standard, maybe not standard these days. I know people have gotten a lot softer of like being outdoors, but my whole childhood was riding bikes, go-karts, just everything outside, getting dirty, playing in the dirt, like out in the fields all day. Whether when I started on bikes, got go-karts, we ended up with 3-wheelers and 4-wheelers. But my dad, again, how he taught me the value of a dollar growing up was he always told me, I'm not going to buy you anything 100%. If you want something, you'll have to pay for half of it. So however you find out to do that is kind of on you. So my mom and dad, they taught me how to cut grass when I was very young, and I started like with cutting our grass. And then my neighbor was driving by, hey, can you cut my grass? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, how much? I think I told him like $5. I was like 6 years old. He was like, okay, yeah, you can cut mine. So by the time I was 8 or so, I was cutting everybody's yard on the street because I didn't know anything about what I was worth or what I was saving them. People were probably charging them $20 to cut their grass. And here I am doing a great job, charging them 5 or 10 or whatever. So they're like, oh yeah, we'll get Johnathan to do it. So I was cutting all this grass and I was saving the money. But I didn't know what for until I saw the snow cone truck go by. I'm like, oh man, I could go buy so I would go out there and buy like $50 worth of candy. So I'd bring it back in and have it stashed beside my bed because I didn't when you first start making money, and a lot of people never get out of this. All they know is like, I made this to spend this. So I'm like, I didn't know I needed to, you don't know anything about investing when you're a kid or the importance of it or whatever. You just want to have fun. So anyway, I just got into that, but it taught me the value of a dollar. And when I wanted my first go-kart and it was $500 and he's like, okay, you have to pay $250. So I'm like cutting all this grass and raking leaves and doing all this stuff and saving up the money. So I got my first go-kart. I'm like, oh, okay, this is kind of how this works. A little bit more time goes by and I'm like, okay, I want a dirt bike. That's $1,000. Okay, I need to save up $500. Keep working, save up $500, give it to dad, get my dirt bike. Then just kept happening over and over, 3-wheeler, 4-wheeler, but it taught me again the value of a dollar. Like you had to work for it to get it. You can't just sit around and hope for it. So I've always been that way, working to earn income. So as the years progressed and I went to college, man, we need to have a subject about college in itself. Not a fan, for the most part, anyway. But anyway, if you want to get back to that, we can. So after college, I get back and I spend, I don't know, $30,000 going to a tech college and finish second in my class and graduate. They're like, "Oh, we'll get you a job, no problem." That was a lie. End up not being able to get a job in anything to do with the field that I went into, and ended up having to get a job, basically being a mechanic on tugboats. But my passion is aviation, so I stumbled upon a job in the aviation industry in my hometown, and I ended up starting to do aircraft maintenance, and then I kind of went into the private, they call them FBOs, where private jets fly into. I started working over there. I was basically doing everything from pumping gas, cleaning the toilets, vacuuming, detailing the jets, like, or airplanes, whatever. Like, I didn't care. Like, as long as I was around airplanes, I loved it. And like, I thought it was awesome. And I'm still in this thing of, obviously I'm making more money, but I'm just spending all of it. Like, I'm not saving anything. So that's kind of like where I was. The only thing that I knew was if I wanted to, and I always wanted to make more money, but one, I didn't you get programmed. You see people that are multi-billionaires, oh, I want to be like them. I want to have billions of dollars, but a lot of people don't even ask themselves why. And um I don't, at that time I didn't know either. I just thought I wanted to be richer than I was for whatever reason. So I'm like, okay, the only way that I can make more money is if I work more hours and or more jobs. So at one time before I started this whole thing with Down for Sound, I was again pumping gas at the airport. I had started my own. I had always cut grass over my entire life because it was a cash thing. So it was always spare cash coming in. But again, there was just another thing that I was trading hours for dollars, even though the dollars were more valuable than me working my full-time job because I was the one running this. I don't even know if you would call it a business, but I guess if I had 10 yards I was cutting a week, I was kind of learning a little bit about business. You have to charge a price for a product and you get paid for it and that whole thing. And I was making some more money. But I still somehow found more time available. And I'm like, I need to find something else to do to fill this empty time slots I have. So I'm like, okay, I can start. I was at work. I was sometimes washing these planes and detailing them, but I'm like, what if I did it for myself on the side and made more money? So I started offering detailing services on the side for these people, well-off people that would be flying out. They're like, hey, we're going to be going to wherever for 5 days. I'm like, oh, you want me to detail your vehicle while you're gone and show back up and it's all night? Oh, yeah, we'll do that. $100. Back then I was like, holy crap, this is amazing. Like $100 is nothing to these people. So I started the detailing thing. I was doing that. And I always ate at a restaurant, a local restaurant called Sherman's. And I'm like, oh, maybe I could start waiting tables there. Never waited tables before. But so at one time I was cutting grass, detailing vehicles, pumping gas, and waiting tables all at the same time, like at the height of before I had the realization that you can make money eventually you can make it without trading hours of your life for dollars. But getting started before you figure that part out, the only thing you can really do is trade hours of your life for dollars. So, and a lot of times people don't ever figure that out. And it's not mandatory that everybody figures that out because a lot of people are okay with working 30 hours a week or 40 hours a week. And they don't want to, just because I want to push the envelope of seeing everything that I can push this into or grow this into doesn't mean that's right for everybody. Mm-hmm. And I had to become understanding of that as well. So there's people out there that are so happy being greeters at Walmart that they love talking to people. They love greeting people. It brings them happiness. They don't need to drive a Bentley or fly in private jets or whatever. That's just what brings them happiness. So who are we to tell them that that's not making you happy? They could be way happier. I know a ton of people that make a ton of money and are miserable. Like, so having that perspective is huge for me. So figuring out, once I started my business, transitioning out of working all those jobs from like whatever hours, 5 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night every day, doing all those different things to make money, was a huge thing for me to get started at my core of coming from a small town. Mm. Because again, when you're in a small town as well, nobody's like really pushing people to like turn into, I guess, super successful people. My mindset at the time was like, man, if I could get to where I'm making at my full-time job, making $35,000 a year, I'll really be doing something. Like I'm like, man, that's my goal, was to get, if I could get to 40,000, I'm killing it. Like, and in that town back then, you were killing it at $40,000 because what you're surrounded by that's what you're surrounded by. People are telling you better be grateful for making $700 a week, or don't be ungrateful. Like, so they're not telling you, oh, it's possible to make $1,000 a week or $10,000 a week or whatever. Nobody's saying that. So it doesn't even register in your head that it's possible. And it didn't in mine either. So as I've continued to grow this thing, a lot of times, like I sit back, I'm like, this is so crazy to see the type of like revenue that we bring in, like fast forwarding to today. I'm like, if I was to tell myself that like 7 years ago that we would be doing our biggest day, I think we've done like $286,000 in a day. So if I was to tell myself when I was pumping gas at the airport and doing all these jobs, like one day in the near future, you're going to do $286,000 in a day. Of course, I'd be like, you're full of shit, man. There's no way. Like, you're like, I'm trying to get to $40,000. You're telling me I'm going to make this much in a day or whatever. So anyway, I never heard it. I'd never seen it. So when you never heard or seen something like that, or somebody telling you you can achieve this, or if I've done this coming from a small town, you can do this, you're handicapped by, I hate to say it doesn't even have to be a small town mindset. It can be just the people you're around. You can live in a town of 2 million people, but if you're hanging around people that are cool with making, again, it's okay if people are cool with this and they're happy making $20,000 a year. If you're hanging around that and like everybody's making 20,000 and you're like, oh, I'm making 20,000, we're cool, like this is good. But as soon as you see something else, that's now that social media is out there and you're like, dang, this dude's flying on private jets and like buying private jets and like these, I mean, I bring up aviation again because it's my, like, I love aviation and it's my passion, and that's why I love working at the airport. But until you see things like this and you're exposed to the possibilities, your mind is just like what it is in that little circle, what you're used to, what normal is for you.
Who were some of the people that you started surrounding yourself with that started showing you that this was possible?
So my boss at the time, I learned a lot of things from him.
That was at the airport, right? The aviation.
Yeah. I learned a lot of things from him that mostly things I did not want to be, what I did not want to do as I grew. But I did learn, it opened my eyes to some things that when he had an airplane for charter and he would go pick up people and fly them to places and drop them off and come back. And I'm like, man, these people spent $30,000 to get picked up and dropped off, and like we're flying back the airplane empty. And I'm like, what? I had to spend an entire year to hopefully make that much, and they're just blowing it. So seeing people doing this, like, and people flying in private jets and stuff like that, it started like kind of opening my eyes to like, well, the first thing is, you know, you have that inner hater that you have to beat down, but you're like, oh, they had to have been given this, their parents gave them the jet, or like they come from money, like that whole thing that so many people say. Like I found myself thinking that, but and like all these people were stuck up, they're pricks if they have money. The more I worked there, the more I learned that, man, so many of these people in these planes, they're so down to earth. Like they're some of the nicest, like, I don't know, salt of the earth type people. They just, if you didn't see them walk off that jet, you would just think they're like this normal person, but they have somehow gotten to this level of wealth that so, and which is, but you can't, when you're working there, you can't be like, hey man, what do you do for a living? Like my boss, like I asked a couple of people, my boss like, no, you don't be getting into people's business. But so
you weren't like that YouTuber that's out there today.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, I like your car. What do you do for a living?
Yep. Which is now it's becoming more, I guess, accepted for people to show their lifestyles and be more open about it. And that's something I've done since day one, even when I was cutting grass every day and living paycheck to paycheck. Like I've shared my entire journey. And now if people see me and see me spending some money every now and then and doing something where they think it's like so crazy over the top, but they just found out about me, they're like, oh, this dude thinks he's better than everybody, must be nice. I'm like, bro, I've chopped cotton. My first job was chopping cotton in the fields of Mississippi. Don't tell me I don't know like hard times or whatever. And I've cut grass. I've done all these things. But anyway, that's kind of like the story of how I got started, and I was just working everything, and that was my first jobs, and it transitioned into the doing the Down for Sound thing and sales and trying to figure that out.
Yeah. And, in there, you talked about people and I mean, it's just, I think it's very common of like people wanting to be wealthy, right? And people wanting to earn a lot of money, and trading that time for things, for objects, for material. And it's kind of like the way we're, I think, conditioned through the marketing that's out there. But you spoke about that until you know why you want to earn or what you want to earn that money for, the doors aren't going to really open up for you. Well, you didn't say it that way, but somewhat. That that's kind of what I got from it. I'm interested in that thought process and how you found your reason for earning.
Yeah, it's it's so important for you to figure out why, like, you want to, or why you think you need to make more money. Because again, like, I know people that make a ton of money and they are miserable. So but they're making a ton of money and they're miserable, but obviously they're spending every one of their hours trying to make more money. You get in this hamster wheel of like more, like, but for what? At what expense? A lot of times it's for the expense of your health. And I fell into that as well. So a lot of people, like you said, the marketing, and we're constantly being bombarded with like, oh, if as certain amounts of money or whatever is certain levels of social status, and if you don't make $1 million a year, you're not cool, like you're not rich, like you're not happy. The only thing you see on social media is people's highlight reels of, which there's two sides. I mean, there's a couple of different ways of looking at that. Of course, like, people are going to share their highlight reels. You do have some people that share a bunch of negative, like, things. They're always whining about something. So there's that side. And then you have people who are like, they're only showing perfect pictures with perfect makeup and like if a certain angle, and they won't show anything else. Or they only share things of them. They went on vacation. Anyway, they're highlight reels. So you have a couple of different ways of doing that, and I see the ones that are doing only the highlight reels and only the good things that are happening to them, which, if you go back and look at your memories, do you want it to be, I understand, like, you would want to see good memories of like birthdays or vacations or good times or whatever. So that's good and all. But I think my biggest thing is I've been like very transparent since day one. And a lot of people they let their pride and ego get in the way of them really growing with people, because I think the more authentic you are with people, the more they'll want to follow you and support you. But when people are like, "Oh, this guy, he never has a bad day. He makes a ton of money, just the greatest life. He never has a hardship." Like, so they're like, "Oh, I can't relate with this guy because like I get beat down all the time on like whatever might be happening." So the biggest, I guess, realization I've had with my business is, and the thing that's made it grow the fastest, is me realizing that it's making it less about me and more about other people. When I first started the business, I was really selfish. And I'm like, okay, if I do everything myself, I'll do all the product ordering, I'll do the packing, the returns, I'll do everything. And if I do this for a few years, I can make a couple $1 million and I can retire. That was my mindset. I'm like, basically, screw everybody else. I just want to retire. Why? Like, why did I want to retire at a couple $1 million? Because I had seen it somewhere online. I'm like, oh yeah, a couple million, you can, like, you'll be fine. I'm like, and then I realized, like, that's not, after I really thought about it, I'm like, that's okay. I'm going to be really bored. That's not going to make me happy. And I realized that I'd been programmed basically by somebody or something or a collective of things on social media saying, retire when you're 35 and be good and you'll be happy. But after I thought about it, I'm like, that's not what brings you happiness. You need to have purpose. You need to be, So
I
that's when I figured.
I met a 22-year-old yesterday actually, who said exactly what you just said. I said, he wants to be an entrepreneur. I said, so what does that mean to you? And he goes, I just want to be an entrepreneur. And I said, well, in what field? Like, what do you want to get into? And he started getting into one of the fields that I won't get into right now. And I said, well, why? And he goes, well, because I want to retire at 40. I don't want to work till I'm 60. I want to make money in my sleep. And I said, all right, so who you been watching on social media? And he started telling me, and I go, okay, let's debunk some of that, But yeah, I love where you're going with this.
Yeah. So I started figuring out that I needed my business was it was handicapped because it was just me. You can only, what's that saying? You can.
I think I know where you're going with that saying, and you're going to come up with it as I kind of help pass it along. But you could only help so many people by yourself, and then by having so many others help so many more.
You can go
right?
a lot further, basically. You can only go so far by yourself, but having a team, you can go a lot further. I can't remember.
I've also heard another really great saying that there's no any really great idea needs more than just you, like to be able to see it through.
Yeah, basically.
Like if it's only you, it's not big enough.
Exactly, and that was my thing. Like thinking back to then, I'm like, man, my thinking was so small. Like. That was basically it. And I didn't know any better because, until you start expanding your circle and everything, you think you're killing it and doing a great job. And anyway, so I had a realization, like, I'm working 100 hours a week. My health is like dwindling away. And for what? To hopefully retire, but I'm sacrificing my health along the way. Okay, I need to start trying to get some help. But so I started dabbling and getting people to help or hiring people, but I was really apprehensive about it until I had another realization, which has to do with relationship with it could be your girlfriend or wife or partner, whatever. So I was working, trying to run this thing, trying to get it off the ground, get it figured out. And so at least 100 hours a week, I was at the office. Like I'd wake up in the morning, I would leave at 5 o'clock. I'd be open till 9. I'd come home after, or I'd get off. I'd stop and get some fast food and get to the house, shovel it down, go to bed, and wake up the next day, do it again. The same. I mean, I'm sure 1,000 people have told the same story, very similar story. But and when I met Jessica, my wife, she has a daughter, which I claim her as my daughter now, Alyssa, and which is another thing. It was one of the biggest blessings in disguise that I needed in my life that I didn't think I needed. If we want to talk about that, we can do that too. But anyway, I come home one night and she's like, "Can we have a talk?" And I'm like, "Yeah, what's up?" And so I just got finished eating and we got in bed and obviously I was exhausted and she's like, "What are we doing this for?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "I don't ever see you. We don't ever go on a date. Like if I had a roommate, I would be closer with them than I am with you. Like you're not the person that I met, like that I fell in love with." And I'm like,
yeah, emotional from it for sure.
Yeah.
It hits.
So I'm like, the first thing you want to do is be defensive because I'm like, I'm trying to provide this life for y'all. I want y'all to have like all the nicest things or whatever. And I'm just not seeing it because like my defensive side comes out and so I start saying that and she's like, "You don't get it. Like that's not like what we care about. We care about like spending time with you, like doing stuff with you and stuff like that." And I'm like, man, like it just floored me. And I'm like, okay, like I got to get this figured out. I got to be there more for Alyssa and Jess. And like, I had to like bring them back to the forefront of what I'm doing this for. Not for the money thing. It's for like you need to use the money to get you more time and freedom with the people and making memories with them way over any material thing also, by the way. So that was like a very defining moment for me. Her saying that to me, and me, like, obviously it still impacts me to this day. It's hard to even talk about because it just floored me. It really brought me um to the present time of like where I was and what I was doing or thought of. I didn't even know what I was creating because you get so tunnel vision sometimes with your what you're doing. You're so focused on I gotta be successful. I gotta make a ton of money. But what at what expense? At
Mm.
my expense was I was losing my family and I didn't even know it
Right. Right.
because I just thought I was doing all this stuff that I had to be monetarily successful. I had to provide like them with all these things. Like I would try to like bring roses and little presents and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm basically trying to buy their love or time with me working all the time. Like, oh, if I just keep showering them with these little gifts or
Right.
whatever, they should be happy.
Yeah,
But
they'll appreciate it. And I do want to go there with you on Alyssa because I think that there's people in our lives that change that change the trajectory of where we're going. And for me, it definitely was my wife. Like I was on one path where, to your point, it was like, climb the corporate ladder, make a bunch of money and party and get fancy things. And then I learned the family life, which was much different for me. And it took me time to adapt to it and to learn and to appreciate it. But when I finally did, it really changed everything. And literally just had a conversation with my wife the other day about how, like, she was like, I don't know what role I play. And it was exactly what you were saying here, is that I was spending so much time, or I am spending so much time working on my business, that she's not seeing me as much. And she's having this conversation with me that you kind of had a couple years ago of like, why are we doing this kind of thing? And I'm like, it's because I'm trying to build this family, this foundation for our family. But to her point, she's just like, look, I want to be with you. I want to see you. I want to, be around you. And what I was sharing back to her was, it's because of her that I want to do all of this stuff. So it's kind of like I got to still figure out how to earn in a way where I'm not trading as much time to earn. So I need to figure that out on my end. But my point of my side here is that it's because of my wife. It's because of my kids that I want to be able to do more. So it's finding that special person. And for you, it was Alyssa. So I'm very interested in how that changed your life and your trajectory in your life.
yeah, it was man, like, and I know like this is a common thing with guys that my mindset before I met Jessica was I'm not ever gonna date a person with a kid or get in a relationship that already has a kid. 'Cause I don't have a kid. Like I'm not getting into that because you hear all the horror
It's
stories,
tough.
drama with the
Sure.
yeah. So I'm like I'm never doing that. And anyway, I get to I meet Jess and I don't know she has a kid and we start like things are progressing or whatever and I'm like okay she's cool I'm coming out to Vegas like let's try to meet up hang out like she lived here in Vegas and so we meet up and hang out a couple of times like falling head over heels for each other and like the whole thing like it's just going and then I go back to Mississippi and I see her make a post like I'm and it like I see this little girl there and I'm like she's like Alyssa such and such whatever and I'm like wait is that her does she have a kid I'm like oh no
Mm-hmm.
no way this is like going against this so I'm like man do I just ghost her and like fall off the face of the earth or man, I was in so much turmoil. And like, this is going against bro code, everything that I ever knew. I said I'd never do this, and like, but there's so much time had already went by, and we had like fallen so much in love with each other. And I'm like, man, it made it even trickier. Obviously, if I found out 2 weeks after meeting her, like it. I mean, I'm glad it did happen the way that it did. But if I found out in like 2 weeks and there wasn't really any feeling or whatever, then I'm like, oh, okay, well, just move on. Like, no, don't do that. But so that was my mindset. Don't ever be with a woman that already has a kid, whatever. So I find out that she does have Alyssa, and I had planned on like I'd already planned on coming back. So I'm in this turmoil of like talking with her, and am I going to tell her I can't do this, or am I going to give it a chance? And I think about it like long and hard. I'm like, okay, what do I have to lose? Like, whatever. Okay, let's give it a shot. So I fly back out to Vegas for some event, and I meet up, or I'm like, hey, do you want to have lunch or whatever? She's like, yeah, but I have Alyssa, and I'm like, okay, I mean, you can bring her or whatever, but um, and I'll never forget this day. Like well, actually, I'd had lunch with somebody else, but I'm like, I want to see you. Do you want to grab some yogurt or whatever? And she's like, yeah, I have Alyssa with me. So beat up at this place called Yogurt Land, and we go in there and I'm seeing Alyssa for the first time. It's like,
how old was she?
probably she's 13 now, so probably 5 or 6, something like that.
Which is
and I'm like
an amazing time.
Yeah, and I'm like, man, like I didn't know um that I didn't know that I needed that, and like seeing her for the first time and like hanging out with her for the first time, like it's times that like I'll never forget, and it's been one of the biggest changes, like things that I didn't know I needed in my life. Like it's hands down like the biggest thing that I did need in my life to like be the person that I am today, and like becoming like a dad through her, like meeting Jess and like her becoming my daughter has like hands down made me like the best that I could be today, along with obviously being with Jess. Like it's changed my mindset, and basically, and I obviously haven't been perfect with it. Like nobody's perfect. And I've done a lot of learning and growing over the years, but again, like I went through that whole time where I was working so much, I wasn't spending enough time with them, and but it's definitely made me way more grounded than I ever would have been if I would have decided not to try that out. Because one thing that's very dangerous is a bored person that's making a lot of money, and a guy at that. Like you see them all over social media, they're blowing money like crazy with all these different girls, and like I'm never settling down, and like I thought that would be a cool life until I found Alyssa and Jess, and like I realized like, man, like this is what life is about. Like this is what brings you fulfillment. So she's been like, man, she's taught me so many lessons, and again, made me the best guy that I could be, because it's kept me grounded and kept me every decision that I make, I think of them, and I'm like, will this hurt them? Will this make our family better? Will this make them better? I consider all those things before I make any decisions. And even when I'm out of town on business trips, and like, you can be at these shows and there'll be scandalous girls there, and you never know what people's intentions are. There's obviously people out there that want to see me or cause me heartache or turmoil or whatever. And like, I don't put it past anybody trying to set me up with making me look bad or cause me issues with my family or whatever. So I'm really like, I'm really on guard when I'm away from my family of like people that are around in my near proximity, because I just know like there's some haters out there that would love to see me hurt in some way, or like, or take a picture a certain way to make it look like whatever. So anyway.
Well, I think what you're talking about, and it's something that I remember my grandmother teaching me when I was a little kid, and in definitely a different context of what you're talking about, is just not putting yourself in certain situations. Is that what you start learning, especially as you start gaining popularity like what you have? You know, I mean, look, you have 500,000 YouTube followers. And the list goes on in your social media channels. So you have a lot of people who know who you are, know what kind of life you're living in terms of lifestyle and earning and everything. And so now you're even more susceptible. I mean, and that's why so many famous people have so many handlers and so many people that are surrounding them. It's because you're vulnerable, and people might want to take advantage, or people might want to, as you said, put you in a bad light so that they can have an opportunity with you. So you have to be very careful about your surroundings and the situations you put yourself in. Is what it sounds like you're describing there.
Yeah, 100%.
Which I wish I was at that level, but I'm not yet.
Yeah, I mean, it'll always come. Like, obviously, if you never give up and you stay consistent, like time, like just keep it going, it'll turn into the biggest thing you want it to be. But yeah, it's been that blessing in disguise that I did not know I needed with her has just been tremendous for me, and just so grateful that did happen and I did take the chance. So, in saying that, I hope this reaches somebody that if you find yourself in that situation, don't let a mindset like what mine was keep you from the greatest thing that could be on the other side of that door. Like I said, it's been hands down the biggest thing that I didn't know I needed in my life. It's made me 100% what I am today. And way more grounded than I would have been. And saying that, in the lesson there, and wanting to earn more money and everything, I'm trying to, I'm writing notes as well, so because I can go off down the rabbit holes like we were talking about. But the material things, as you continue to make more money and you think you can fix relationship problems with gifts or whatever it is, a lot of times, for instance, I didn't know, there's a book called The 5 Love Languages, and it helped me understand a lot, because I didn't know people needed to be loved in different ways, or people felt love in different ways. Some people were material things, some people were, there's 5 different ones, but I can't remember all of them. But I realized that I like helping people, or random acts of kindness or whatever. So I think it's normal for you to love your partner in the way that you want to be loved, because that's what makes your love bucket full. But just because that makes your love bucket full doesn't mean that's their love language. And they're like, hey, I appreciate you bringing me flowers all the time, but that doesn't do it for me. So my wife's thing is quality time. And me being an entrepreneur and a go type of person, and quality time can be doing absolutely nothing but sitting on the couch beside each other. And I'm like,
that's my wife too.
I'm like, what? Yeah, I mean, we could be watching a show or whatever, but in my head, I'm like twiddling my thumbs, I gotta be making another deal. I gotta be hustling, but to her, that's filling her love bucket, is spending time together, being there with her, doing that type of thing. And anyway, so it took me learning that, and it not being, and I also thought it was giving her gifts. She could care less about material things. She's just thank you for the flowers, but that might just put this much in her love bucket. She wants to sit there, watch her favorite show together, or just be together, that quality time. So that was a huge book. I definitely would recommend it. It definitely took our relationship to a whole deeper level of understanding. When you truly understand your partner and how they want to be loved, and when you do something that is going to fill their love bucket, and it could be something so small, you're like, man, this is easy. Why did it have to be so difficult before? I was bringing her flowers or food or whatever, which those things, again, they can be okay. I mean, it's not like that they're not going to be appreciative of them, but the quality time thing for her is you're dumping a whole big bucket of water in there instead of just a little cup. So
I just got into Deepak Chopra. A friend just put me onto him, and I've heard quotes from him before. Have you ever listened to any of his stuff? No, yeah. So very more on the mindful type of spiritual type of stuff. And I just got into him, so I can't speak too much about his work. But I just got put onto him, and what he was talking about is kind of like the whole giving mentality of like the more you give, the more you receive. And in that, in the same vein of what you're talking about, is that like what he's talking about is like always give to others, always give more than you have, always give to others. And what I really liked what he said is that it doesn't always have to be material, which is like what you're talking about here, is that you can give to someone you love, like you're talking about Jess here. You can give to someone you love, you can give to a stranger, you can give to anybody, and it could just be the giving of saying, hey, look, you look great today, or, you know, I'm giving you my blessing and I hope you have a wonderful day, or giving them a smile and a handshake. And you can give things even if you don't have the material, and it goes, and what he was talking about is that it goes even further because of the vibration and the positivity that you're putting out into the universe and that you're experiencing yourself. So it's really profound stuff, and it doesn't just mean in terms of like, you know, I'm listening to this book that he has, and it's speaking about spiritualism and relating it in business and in life, but it's also like what you're talking about here in relationships with our loved ones, with our spouses, with the people we care about, is that we can give more than just material. We can give ourselves, and you know, that's what it sounds like, you know, she wants and expects from you. And I think that that's what most of us do too, right? Like, I mean, on the other side of it, like, we're guys, right? And you're talking about four-wheelers and motorcycles, and those are cool, and I love that too, and all the different cool stuff that we can have in toys. But at the end of the day, we want to enjoy them with our friends, with the people we care about. We don't want to, like, if you were just riding a dirt bike alone, which I know you probably do, right?
Yeah.
And I play basketball alone too, because that's my big passion. You do want to end up going for a ride with a friend, right? Mm-hmm. You don't want to keep doing it alone.
Absolutely. So like that brings up something for me as well. People like, cause on my, like, I have a vision board that has a list of stuff on there that I repeat morning and night every day to keep it on the forefront of my mind. And one of them is I always want to give more and be even more philanthropic as I continue to grow. I just want that to grow alongside my my, I guess, legacy. So and as, again, being totally transparent with my whole journey, people will see where now, like, I mean, I've easily given away over $1 million worth of stuff. So when people see the levels that you're giving, like, they'll say must be nice, or like the people that don't really know must be nice, or I would give like that too if I could. And I'm like, so now, and I can understand why they would be like in that mindset or whatever. I might have thought that way as well, but I've always been a giver. But before I had any type of money or things or whatever, like, the only thing that I could give was my time. Like, I would, giving doesn't have to be material things or money or whatever. You can give somebody, like you said, a compliment, or you can give them a helping hand. Like, you can go, like, I was going and cutting old ladies' yards for free, or weeding their flower beds for free, like, just to help people, because then I'm like, man, this makes me feel good. Like, I love this. Like, this is really fulfilling for me. So it really, I knew that I had a knack for being a giver before I even started making any type of money. But as I've continued to grow over the years, and my revenues constantly went up, and I'm like, man, I can, okay, like, you used to give somebody $20 or whatever, you give them $100 or whatever it ends up being. And I end up, I've given my mom a brand new Yukon Denali. I gave my dad a brand new a Denali truck last year. I gave my wife a Audi RSQ8. I've given my employees like so many random different things. Gave my accountant all expense paid vacation. Like, just, and I don't say these things for like bragging at all. Like, I'm just, it's a wild feeling of when you give somebody something that it can be decently big to you, but to them it's like something that they could never even imagine. Like, seeing the look on my mom's face when I like gave her that, or my dad's face, and like seeing him cry, like, from and not wanting to accept something like that because he didn't think he deserved it. Like, and I'm like, if anybody deserves this, like, it's you. Like, but seeing them, that emotion, that raw emotion from like you giving somebody something like that obviously they never thought that they would have ever received, is, man, the feeling is I can't even put it into words. It's so amazing. And two other things that my sister, my youngest sister, she's always had like really bad teeth, and she got married a couple of years ago, and I told her for her wedding present, I just gave her an envelope, and it said in there like, I'm gifting you a brand new smile for your wedding present. And like, again, seeing her just like crying tears of joy is like, because when somebody has a bad smile and she's always laughing and stuff, but she's always covering her mouth like this, like, because like they don't want people to see or she doesn't want people to see her teeth. So I told her, like, I'm like, I don't care what it costs, like, go to the local dentist and tell them like you want to have all your teeth fixed, like, I'm going to cover that for you. But seeing like her just crying like a little girl, basically, because she just can't believe like that she's being a recipient of something like this. Amazing. And I have three sisters. One of my second sister, Honesty, she's one of the most selfless women that I know. She's been a foster parent of so many different girls, and I think that's the most selfless thing that you can do, is be a foster parent. She's taken these kids in that's been in horrible situations, nurtured them, loved them like they are her own, and for one day for them to be taken away, and she never gets to see them again. I'm like, man, to put yourself out there, to be on that, to know that's going to happen and still do it, to provide love, and you being so selfless to provide that love for that kid to possibly have a better life for whether it's 6 months, 2 years. Anyway, and she's just a single person. Like, she doesn't have anybody helping her. So her doing this all by herself, I'm like, okay, I want to bless her. So last year, I'm like, I'm going to, like, for Christmas, we were there for the holidays. I'm like, hey, I'm paying. She just got a new vehicle, I think a year ago or something like that. Hey, I'm going to pay off your vehicle, and I'm going to pay your rent for this entire year to make your life a little bit easier. Again, just the raw emotion of, and somebody's brought this up too. They're like, do you ever see yourself being selfish and giving for your own reasons because you want to experience that euphoric feeling of like how good it makes you feel? And I'm like, man, I've never thought of it like that. I'm like, I don't know. Do I give so much because it makes me feel so good? Like, or is it truly helping? I mean, obviously it's helping the person, but so it kind of like knocked me off my rocker a little bit. I'm like, I don't know how to take that, or I don't know what the right answer is.
But is there anything wrong with that?
Yeah, not that I know of. Like, right. I think it's great on both sides.
You're still giving, right? And I mean, people speak. It's the truth. It's like I started learning to receive, and my wife has a hard time receiving as well. But I helped her learn. Well, and to answer your question, then, is that the receiving end. It's the giver is receiving when they give, and so by you receiving, you're giving back to them. So that's why it's so important to also be gracious and receive and say, thank you. And I appreciate this, because if the person's willing to give and just you're in the shoes of a giver, right? You're already a giver. So the feeling after you give, why you're giving. And it's not, you're not giving for the selfish reason initially, right? You're giving because you want to put joy on their face and in their hearts, right? That's why you're giving. Yeah. And that's what I've gotten from your stories here. But you're also receiving that joy, and I can see that in the way you're speaking about it right now, and how much you feel in your feelings right now when you're sharing these stories, is that you're also receiving. So as a recipient of something, it is important to receive it and to say thank you and to take it. And it is hard. It is hard. I'll share real quick a story from me in that. I'm hustling, right? I got Johnathan, my insurance company that I'm trying to grow. I'm the main salesperson for it. I got Jim and Monique who are my admin and my inside sales, and I'm hustling. I'm doing right now. I'm doing a county fair. So since Tuesday, today is Friday for our listeners. From Tuesday to Sunday, I'm there till 10 o'clock at night, and I'm going to leave here and go there, right? And so I'm doing that. I'm doing this. I'm doing all the things I possibly can. I'm missing different things, and you know, as a business owner starting out right now, I haven't hit that mark where I'm extremely profitable or even profitable to where I can start buying myself things, right? So my parents are looking at me and they're watching my social media and they're seeing me out and about and they're going, you lost a ton of weight. So I lost about 30 pounds. You lost a ton of weight. None of your clothes is fitting you right. Your suits don't fit you right. You don't look like the guy that you're trying to portray. You need a new wardrobe. And I told my mother, I was like, I just, one, I don't have the time, and two, I can't afford to buy a new wardrobe right now. And so last weekend, I was available on Saturday. My mother said, we're going to Macy's. And I said, no, you're going to make me work. I don't want to go to Macy's. Like, I'd rather do a podcast. You know what I mean? And she's like, nope, we're going to Macy's. Your father and I are taking you to Macy's, and we're going to get you a new suit. And I'm like, all right, fine, just for a new suit. Well, anyway, they start picking stuff off the things, whatever. Start putting things on the counter. I'm like, do you realize how much you're spending here? Like, you can't do that. And my mother's like, stop it. You need this, and I want to. I can, and I want to get this for you. And it was so hard to receive it. You know, it's so hard. You know, because I want to give that to them, but I'm not in a position to do that quite yet. And they were so happy to give it to me. They were so excited. And so yesterday, my parents actually helped me at the fair yesterday, because while I'm doing the fair, I'm also going to networking events. So I said, you know, I got a big chamber mixer coming up and I got to go to this one. And so my parents said, no, we'll drive up there. And by the way, so I'm in New York for you and for our listeners here. They live in New York City, in Queens, and I'm upstate New York. So I'm about 2 hours away from them. They said, no, we'll come up. We'll work the booth. You go to the mixer. So I had the pleasure of, you know, I'm working the booth. I'm just wearing my Johnathan t-shirt. But my parents showed up to the booth. I went to the bathrooms. I got changed, and I got to put on that nice new suit that they got me to go to the mixer.
That's awesome.
And my mom saw it,
Love it.
And her eyes lit up, and she's like, you look good. Go kill it.
That's awesome. I love it. And I mean, I love hearing stories like that, and it makes all the sense in the world because, I mean, and it's good to hear that because when you're saying it was so hard for you to be accepting of it, I'm like, man, people are like, or my wife or whoever, what would you like for Christmas? Nothing.
Right.
I got everything I want. Like, don't get me anything. Spend it on somebody else. Like, just constantly deflecting everything like somebody's trying to give me. But I mean, like, maybe the biggest reason is like, I don't know how to be an acceptor of things. Like, I don't know. Like, it would be weird to me, or I don't want people to waste their money on me. Like, give it to somebody that actually needs it or whatever. So that's a big thing. So yeah, the giving thing doesn't have to be money. And in saying the stories or sharing those stories, I say that because people will say, "Oh, I would give like that too if I could." And I'm like, so I actually made a post about this on my personal Facebook page. Like I said, I share like my thoughts on there a lot. Sometimes it is people like it, sometimes people don't, but it is who I am. I've just always been transparent. So I just basically said on there, if you're not giving 10% of your income away when you're making $500, do you think you're going to do it when you're making $5,000? You're not going to give $500 away when you make $5,000 if you're not giving $50 away when you're making $500, because you're just gonna be like, oh, I can. It's more about me. So I made a post about that. Had a lot of mixed reviews because a lot of people just can't see it. They can't interpret it because they're not on the side of being able to give like that. They just think, and I thought that way as well. I'm like, oh, when I make a lot of money, then I'll be philanthropic, or then I'll start giving or whatever. And I did that for a little while. I'm like, like, I can give along the way. Like, it's not like if if it slows me down a year or two, like, so be it. Like, I have a whole lifetime ahead of me, and if I do die, like, I won't know about it anyway. Like, so why don't I just help some people along the way? Um, but now, like, my wife just made a post about me yesterday, and like, it was a really emotional one too. I'm like, because we want to be valued by our wives, and I guess it will be on my Facebook page like yesterday. But anyway, she's like, he's so generous. He cares about people, and like, he's the most giving person I know. And just talking about different things of some things like people bring up, I don't even remember them anymore. I don't even can think about like what I've given to people or done. Just in the car audio space and on our Downford Sound, going back to business a little bit, one of the things that I do is when we do come out with a new product, like whether it's a $10 product or a $2,000 product, I'll give one away. Like, to like, I'm like, hey, if you want to enter this giveaway, share this video publicly. Can make sure like the video, comment on the video saying you shared it, and make sure you like my page, and you're entered. No purchase necessary. And so that, and just car audio stuff, I've like, we're approaching like almost $1 million worth of stuff that I've given away. And it's like, I don't even, I mean, I know it's out there. I know people will see it, but I'm like, that's cool to give back to the community that's given me this life of abundance that I never in my wildest dreams thought I could have achieved coming from this small town. Like, it's just wild. So the more we do this, and I'm not a material person. My wife gets on to me about that. She's like, you're always wearing these holy socks and like these worn out shorts, and all you wear is Down for Sound $5 t-shirts. And I'm like, I don't care. And I drive a truck with almost 400,000 miles on it. It's beat up, but it runs good and has cold air conditioning. I'm like, that's all I need. I don't care. Like, I'm not a but I bought her a $150,000 SUV. But as far as me, maybe it'll change one day. But right now, like, I've never been into the materials thing. What I have been always a proponent of is memories, experiences, creating those, because I read a lot of books about basically people in nursing homes, and they're on their deathbeds, and they tell you, they share their regrets with you. And it hit me like they basically, a lot of them come to the conclusion of you're not going to be laying there wishing you would have worked that much, that you wish you would have worked more. You're not going to be doing that. You're going to wish you would have took the trips. You would have wished you would have went and experienced life, went and saw your daughter's volleyball games, like been there for your family. You're going to wish you would have done all those things. I'm like, okay, I need to start implementing these things. So that was another realization for me. And when I was telling you about the, like, just saying, what are we doing this for? And like, okay, how do I start making changes with this? I need to start getting more help. Started hiring people. Like, okay, I need to start bringing my amount of hours worked down. So again, I was working till 9. Like, okay, I need to get it to 8. That'll give me a little bit of time to hopefully see Alyssa, because when I was working till 9 and then going to get something to eat and coming home, she was already asleep. There would be days we lived in the same house, and there would be days of 3-4 days that I wouldn't even see her. How sad is that? Yeah. That's horrible. But I know my story isn't alone. I know other people are doing the same thing. But I'm like, but it took her saying that to me to start being way more proactive in fixing the issue, hiring more people, getting team members, everything like that. So brought the time back, like, that I would leave the warehouse to 8 o'clock. I'm like, okay, I got to do better. Bring it back to 7. Got to do better. 6, 5. Now, like, she actually works for me, and she works 9 to 4 or whatever. So she'll be leaving. I'm like, I'll leave too. Let's go. So, but now, like, I've implemented these things of like trying to be there as much with them as much as possible. Every Thursday minimum, I take Alyssa to school, or we have a breakfast date. I put that in like right when I was starting to bring the hours back. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to be there on Thursday mornings. I'm going to take her to breakfast. We go to Starbucks. We do our little thing, and then I take her to school, drop her off. We've done that every Thursday for years now, and that's like our time. And I share that again on social media, and people are like, man, I've seen her grow up over the years. It's so cool that y'all have this relationship. And I'm like, man, again, she's the biggest blessing to me I never knew I needed. And like
Mhm.
getting to spend that time with her and her to open up to me and tell her whatever hardship she's having at the time or whatever she's celebrating. Like, and I also had to become, I was taking her initially and I was always on my phone. And I saw something about somebody saying you needed to be as present as possible with people that mean the most to you. And I'm like, hit me. So I'm like, okay, when I take Alyssa to breakfast, I'm leaving my phone in my pocket. I'm not pulling it out. I'm 100% engaged with her, and that's what I need to be. And so anyway, I'm always trying to perfect things and learn over time, but that's one of the things that I learned and that I've been doing for her. But as far as gifts and everything, another reason why I'm not big on the material things so much, and I know it can look a certain way because we do have like everything that we need, and we have a beautiful home that we just bought last year and is totally renovated, and we made it what we want, and she has a nice vehicle, and we just have what we need. But I'm like the things that matter the most are the memories that we get to make and the trips that we get to go on. And I know when I'm on my deathbed, and I tell my wife this, she's like, "You bring up your deathbed a lot." I'm like, because I want to be present with it, because I want to make sure I'm taking advantage of the time that I have now, and I'm
Mhm.
not being complacent. And the next thing you know, because I worked for many of years and I never went on vacation, I never went anywhere. Like, so anyway, and even when I met her and we was in those hard times of me getting the business going, I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't going anywhere. We weren't experiencing anything. So now that I've hired a bunch of people, I have a big team. Well, not a huge team. I think we're like 15 or 18 people now, but enough to where I cannot be here and the business run fine, like without me being here. So that's bought me that time that people, they want to get from starting a business. They want it to get to where it'll run itself, and then they can go and do trips or whatever. So I told her, I'm like, I feel like I'm playing catch up now, because this year, man, we've went so many places and done so many things, and like we'll be on a trip and it'll be coming to an end. I'm like, where can we go next? Listen, like, what are we gonna do next? Like, so she's like, I know, like it's like it almost becomes an addiction in a way, but I'm like, what a great addiction to have of creating more memories. Like you want to go experience these different things. So this and her and Alyssa have both said, and this makes me feel really good too, like this has been the best summer that we've ever had in our entire lives. Like when they told me that, I'm like, man, that's amazing
Mm.
to hear somebody make that strong of a statement. It just that made me feel so amazing as well. So anyway, I did write this down. This is another thing. You were talking about we want to have the ATVs and the yachts and the planes, and like just depending on how much you want to grow it or whatever. That's one of the things that I realized. I took my wife to Miami, then St. Martin for a couple of days last month, and I'm like, I'm gonna do. She loves boats. She loves boats. She has a passion for boats. I have a passion for airplanes. So like. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna charter a yacht while we're down there for a day just to do something nice, and I know she'll enjoy it. So we get to the place, and they're like, Mr. and Mrs. Price, and I'm like, yes, sir. And they're like, okay, no, right this way. And we're walking down there. She sees the boat. She's like, oh my gosh, like, and they're like, do you have anybody else coming? And then they're like, and we say no, and they look at each other and. They're like, oh, okay. And it's like this huge boat for just the two of us. And that's why, while it was really cool and we loved the experience the whole time we were out there, like, man, we wish our friends were here with us, like to experience this. So I learned from that. And I'm like, I'm going to do something cool we had an event coming up for my business, but like a lot of our business friends, we have really good relationships with, and we commingle business and pleasure at the same time. Like a lot of these events, we have a good time. But anyway, we took a private jet over to Knoxville, Tennessee for this event, but I knew all of my friends were going to be there, so I surprised them. I told them all, like, hey, everybody be at Scotty's house this morning at 11 a.m. or whatever, and loaded them all up on the private jet, flew them to Destin, Florida, and had a yacht down there, and we did it again with all of our friends. And I'm like, and it was everybody's like, this is the greatest day I've had this year. Like, this is amazing. And hearing them say that and seeing everybody having such a good time, like my fulfillment bucket was like just running over. I'm like, man, this is so awesome. Like, I love this. And it was so many first experiences for people being on a private jet and also being on a private yacht and going somewhere just to do it for the day and being back at the house that night. And like people are they're still talking about it. They can't believe it happened. But I'm like, man, what a story. That's going to be a story that we tell for the rest of our lives. I'm 100% confident in that. And there are people, some of the business guys in the groups are like, I don't know how we're going to top that, man. You set the bar pretty high last year. So, but I'm like, we could do that. Like, once a year, it's not that big of a deal for all of us to get together. And the bonding that happened while we were there and the great time is just awesome. So I look forward to that. But yeah, sharing experiences with others is very fulfilling.
It's the biggest thing. So outside of creating this great following that you have on social media and then building this sound business that you have, you also help people learn how to create this wealth in their life. And I'm interested if you could share a little bit about that with our audience.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing is, like, as you initially think you want to make a lot of money for yourself, I think, but it's the thing that's brought me a lot of fulfillment as well, is seeing, like, hiring more people, providing jobs for more people, and seeing them become successful alongside me and achieve something else that brings me a ton of happiness is, like, they'll buy a new vehicle. Hey, JP, come on here, look at my new car. Like, I couldn't have done this without working with you, man. Like, I feel like I got a new car. I'm like, man, that's amazing. Like, they're so happy they got their dream car or whatever. Hey, JP, I want to show you a picture of my new house that I got. Like, I couldn't have done this without working with you. Like, man, what an amazing feeling. But so seeing them achieve their dreams and goals alongside me, I'm like, it's amazing. And it's more important than just making it more about other people than myself has been the thing that's grown my business the most, and like so many different areas. But whether it's more about the customers, more about my employees, more about our friends, like being able to join us on those cool memory making trips, it's brought me a ton of joy. So that's a big thing to, I don't know, I guess it's just my way of doing things. Giving probably isn't for everybody.
Is that a formalized coaching program that you do, or is this more of just kind of like you just speak with people as like a mentor?
I mean, we're working on that because, like, I also know that, and I didn't want to do this at first because I felt like it was kind of douchey to charge people for time with me. But the more times that I've, like, people message me and like, oh, I got a business question, like, okay, cool, and like help them out, spend hours, days, whatever, like helping them, like hopefully helping them with whatever question that they have, and like okay, you need to implement this, blah blah blah. And then like months go by, and like I wonder how they're doing. I shoot them a message. Oh, I didn't decide to do it. I'm like, bro, man, like, you know how much time you costed me, and you just wasted it. But the reason why is because it didn't cost them anything. Mm-hmm. They didn't have any skin in the game, right, basically. So if you don't have to pay for something, you didn't have to trade hours of your life to get it. The value of it isn't ever going to be as much as if you did have to trade some of your hard-earned dollars for it. So we're coming out with a program that people can buy. Like, I'll probably do like a monthly get together where people can join in, and the different levels of what they pay for, get some different amounts of access to me for obvious reasons. Like, if it's a cheaper price, that they'll be able to like get in and like watch what other people's ask or whatever. If you pay another, anyway, we're working on that. But it's, again, I'm still on the fence about it. I don't like to charge people for advice, but I get it from so many people wasting so much of my time. Like, there has to be something there where they have to have some skin in the game.
A bit of a credibility, a barrier of entry kind of thing. Right. Yeah, I mean, and it makes sense. You know, you have to offer some sort of like point of entry, and I think what you get to, like what I've learned too when mentoring or helping is, they're coming to you with questions, but then really it's I don't know. It's funny. It's like, I don't know if you've experienced this, where they ask you a question and then you start trying to help them through your experience or through your knowledge. And then they're kind of like pushing it all away and they're going, no, this is how. And I'm like, well, why did you ask me? Whereas if they're paying you, it's a much different situation, because if they're paying you, they're like really bought into the whole idea or what you're sharing with them.
100%.
But so you're doing, you do all this awesome stuff, and you talked about experiences. So I mean, a little bit off of the topics that we've been talking about, but kind of intertwined in. I'm interested in like your most exciting experience that you've had. I know you just talked about the yacht with your friends, but what's something that you've had with Jess and with Alyssa that you guys have done and that you're just like, or even if it was like you skydiving, you mentioned in your YouTube videos, like what was one of the things where you're just like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm doing this right now?
I've had a big thing for aviation, and it's been on my vision board ever since I got started to have my own airplane, and I know one day I will, and it's becoming closer and closer. But so this year I've been trying on some different airplanes, like chartering some different jets and stuff like that, and I surprised them. One thing was like last year, our very first private jet I ever chartered. I took them back to Mississippi for the Christmas holidays, but they didn't have any idea. Like my wife, like she hates like Spirit and Allegiant. I mean, I fly on them all the time. I'm flying on them next week. Anyway, as long as it's a nonstop flight, I'm cool with going there on whatever airline. So, but every time that I take her with me on one of the budget airlines, something happens where it turns into like this horrible experience, this delay, they cancel the flight, like this whole thing. So she's like, this is like the trailer park of the skies, or like, so anyway, coming up to the trip to go back to Mississippi to see my parents. So she's like, what airline are we flying or whatever? I'm like, Spirit, whatever one she hated the most at the time. So we're leaving, or we're getting ready in the morning, and I'm like, the flight got delayed. Like I keep like playing with her emotions. Yeah, she has no idea. So I keep pushing it back. She's like, I swear, I don't know why you always like get these cheap airlines or whatever. So I'm like, okay, they say it's on time, so we need to like head that way. So we get in the car, we're going down the hill and it comes to this point in the road where you either turn right to go to the Harry Reid or the main airport, or go left to go to the private airport. And I turn left, and she's like, "You're going the wrong way. We're going to be late, whatever." And I'm like, "No, we're going the right way." And we pull up at the private airport, and she's like, "What are we doing here?" And anyway, we walk in, and the pilot's there. He's like, "Mr. and Mrs. Price." I'm like, "Yes, sir." And he's like, "Oh, right this way." And we walk out, and the jet's like right there at my other front door. And she's like, "What?" Like there's so much excitement, and we get on there, and I also asked them what their favorite, like, I don't know, it was like a month in advance. I asked them what their favorite breakfast foods were, and I had them on the plane, so they got their favorite breakfast. So anyway, we took off, and we were eating our favorite breakfast on the plane, and it was like a really cool experience. So that was a thing that they couldn't believe that was happening, and I couldn't either, because it was my very first time like being on like a private jet charter
that you chartered.
Yeah, we had a really good time this year, and it also made me understand how a jet can buy you time back, because that's basically what it is. It's like a modern day time machine in a way, because a lot of my travels are to the East Coast and from Vegas. I mean, you're looking at like Mississippi being 24 hours, Florida being 34 hours if you're driving, and that's if you don't stop. Like, so it makes a lot of things accessible for you. That normally wouldn't be. But so we had an event in Biloxi, Mississippi, which is about a 5-hour drive from where my parents live in Mississippi. So we went to the event for a couple of days, and my dad was getting baptized on a Sunday. We took off out of there after the show on Sunday, made it there for his baptism, which we would have not been able to do both of those if we didn't have the plane, because it's a 5-hour drive. So if the thing ended at 4:00 and we had to drive 5 hours, we wouldn't have got there till 9:00 at best. So they made that possible. And I also surprised my oldest sister and my middle-aged sister Audrey and Honesty and their kids with we were planning on going to Disney World in Florida. So I'm like I told them like the week before. Well, I actually had a dream on a plane when I was going back to Vegas, like commercial plane. I fell asleep and I had like this little dream, like, and I told Jess when I landed, I'm like, I had this crazy dream that when I was on the plane that, when we were leaving to go to Disney World, for some reason, Audra and Honesty and her kids were out there to see us off or whatever. And I walked on, and we all walked on the plane. And when I got on there, I'm like, we should just offer to see if they wanted to go with us. And we already like have everything paid for. And this was in my dream. And she's like, yeah, that's a great idea. Go ask them. And I'm like, well, they're probably going to say no because they don't have any clothes or anything. So anyway, I walk off and like, hey, if y'all want to join us, y'all can go with us. And they're like, what? And I'm like, y'all can go if you want to. And they're like, but we don't have any clothes. And I'm like, hey, it's spontaneous. If you want to go, just park your cars and go. And anyway, in my dream, they just got on the plane and we took off and went to Florida. And so I told Jess about the dream and she's like, you should ask them. And I'm like, okay. So I asked them, and again, they work normal jobs, and I'm like, it's a week before. They're probably not going to be able to make this happen. So anyway, they ended up working it out, and they made it where they could go, and we had the best time. Even with it being so hot in Florida, like the time that we went, it was so awesome. Like being able to take everybody down there again, sharing those experiences and making those memories was just. We couldn't believe it was happening. It was just such an awesome time for those 4 or 5 days that we were down there. So
it's incredible on how much you're able to give back to your family, and I mean, and of course the people around you, your employees and your community. It speaks to the whole giver's gain, and speaks to the more you give, the more you receive, and seeing what you're accomplishing in the sound industry, what you're accomplishing on social, and of course. What you're doing and how you're changing the lives of the people around you. I think we talk about philanthropy and we only think about it in the non-for-profit sense, but it's also giving back to the people that we love and that we care about. And I see that with you. You do a tremendous amount in terms of that. As we can, start wrapping up the show a little bit, I like to also, learn what's the code you live by? What's a mantra that you see or speak every day that you live by? I'm interested in that.
Oof, man, that caught me off guard.
That's all right. And if you have more than one, that's cool too.
I mean, it's not one that I live by anymore, but it's something that I definitely learned from, I used to live by the saying, you can sleep when you're dead. And I didn't know, that I was so I was sleeping like 3 or 4 hours a night. And I didn't know that sleep is one of the single most important things that you can do to better your health. So that was a saying that I ended up being totally wrong about. And now I'm trying to get as much on the opposite side of that, like get as much sleep as possible. If I feel like taking a nap, go take a nap, like just listen to your body. But I mean, my dad's saying is a very important one. I think like you can, and I'll just share that you can have anything in this life that you want, and as long as you're willing to work your ass off for it. And, that doesn't always have to be, trading hours for dollars. You can work really hard for a very short amount of time, and accomplish a lot of things. And I mean, and I think that's why I've inspired so many people, is because they see what I've been able to do and accomplish, and what people coin as a very short amount of time. And I can understand that as well, because I thought if I was able to become a single 1 million heir before I died, I thought that would be an amazing thing. And I thought that would be a lifetime goal. And it was on my vision board. I'm like, okay, if I can get to 1 million, like I'll be successful or whatever. And I've constantly changed my vision board and updated it over the years. As everything, I would definitely suggest people having a vision board, like to keep whatever it is you're wanting to achieve first and foremost on your mind. I have mine on my mirror. It has a list of things that the very first one, I want to be the best husband I can be to Jessica and dad to Alyssa. That's number one. And since like I'm really wanting to get into a jet soon, like the third one is like I will own a Falcon jet. It's a certain type of jet. I love the way it looks and performs and everything like that. So that's on there. But I'll be more philanthropic. I'll do more than $300,000 in revenue on a day. I read all these things. So it just reading that before, I mean, before your day starts and also before you go to bed, it's just constantly being on my mind, and everything I put on my vision board, I've achieved all of them. So, and some of them I thought, like when I was first starting my vision board, I put this after I did like the million thing. I'm like, I'm going to shoot for the moon and put 10 million on there. And I'm like, hopefully one day that'll happen. And then a few years later, I'm like, I'm talking to my accountant. She's like, anyway, I'm like, that's crazy. But it's saying that every single day, keeping it on my mind and keeping consistent with like your hard work and everything. It's all always came true. So I also have to be selective of what I do put on there, because some things you think you want or need and you don't. So I try to be as selective as possible on those. But it's I don't know of a actual saying.
Well, I mean, what you've just shared is amazing and very profound in that it's what your father taught you when you were very young, and you talked about it in the top of our show about the hard work and how you were trading, time for money and what that taught you, and where you are today and doing the reverse of that. And also the sleep thing. I love that too. You bring that up. I've heard that before too, right? Like you sleep when you're dead, but it's so important for our listeners to realize, and so many already do, how important sleep is. I mean, like you said, you had that dream with your family, and, without sleeping, you wouldn't have had that dream to be able to give that to your family. And there's just so much, and there's so much that happens from a neurological and a biological standpoint in terms of our sleep, of how it actually sharpens the saw for us to be able to perform and do more. With everything that you're doing, I know you got your followers already, but how can our listeners find you? Where can they find you, and how can they reach out to you if they need help?
Yeah, so Down for Sound Shop on Facebook and Instagram. Then I have, like I said, The Life of Price is my YouTube channel. That's my biggest following. I have that on YouTube and also a Facebook page under The Life of Price. But the thing I personally post the most on, and on the more personal level, like I was telling you, being as transparent as possible, is going to be my name, Johnathan Price. So Facebook /Johnathan Price. I think I sent that to you, so
yep.
They'll be able to check that out. But just share as much stuff as I can on there to help people out. A lot of them is tips and tricks on stuff that I've learned over time to just, I don't know, like make it available easier for people that I might have had to get through a mentor, I might have had to pay a lot of money for, or find out the hard way, or whatever. So those I share those things for absolutely nothing.
Yeah, and the only thing you ask for is engagement, and I think that's fair. And I think that's a great lesson for all of us here, is that, if you're following somebody and they're giving you value, engage with them, drop a like, drop a comment, just engage with them. I mean, myself included, I feel the same way. Sometimes, people say, I'll see them in public and they're like, oh, I love what you're putting out there. And I'm like, I never even knew you saw the stuff that I put out there, because you've never commented or liked any of it. So I didn't even know that you saw
right.
it. And so in the same respect, I can't even give you the recognition, because I like to recognize the people that comment or like. I can't even give you the recognition and say, hey, thanks for liking my video. I appreciate that, because we do, right? You appreciate, we work this hard on putting out valuable comment, not just for ourselves, but also because we want to know that what we're doing is actually impacting the life of somebody else. And so, we were talking about receiving before. Receiving a like, receiving a comment helps us realize, we're doing the right thing. We're on the right track. And so if you're following the Life of Price, if you're getting value out of what he's putting out there, comment, like it, let them know that it's valuable to you. I want to thank you so much for coming on today. I want to thank you for sharing all your stories and getting deep with us today. And, you did go down some rabbit holes that I really appreciate, because we would have never gotten there if you weren't really passionate about some of those things. So I thank you for doing that today.
Yeah, my pleasure. And I know a couple of them were really emotional for me, but that's just how much of a pivotal moment it was in my life when those happened to me. I mean, if you ever want to do like a part 2 or something, I mean, like I said, like the whole college thing, my 2 cents on that. There's a bunch of other stuff that I have like to offer people out there, but I know we only have so much time, you and I, at this certain time. So just let me know in the future if I could come and help more people.
For sure, man. Yeah, I mean, I'm very happy to have you on, and I can't wait to speak with you offline about getting me out of the hustle gig, because part of the reason why we're wrapping up this episode, everyone, is because I got another one coming in the door.
That's awesome, man. I love it.
So, but thanks for coming on today.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to The Michael Esposito Show. For show notes, video clips, and more episodes, go to michaelespositoinc.com/podcast. Thank you again to our sponsor, Den 10 Insurance Services, helping businesses get the right insurance for all their insurance needs. Visit den10.io to get a quote. That's DENTEN.io. And remember, when you buy an insurance policy from Den10, you're giving back on a global scale. This episode was produced by Uncle Mike at the iHeart Studios in Poughkeepsie. Special thanks to Lara Rodrian for the opportunity and my team at Michael Esposito Inc.